Two common experiences that dementia residents go through that they struggle with is high anxiety and dementia blanks. And it can be very difficult to tell the difference between the two. So to outline, with anxiety, the person is tense, uptight, and on edge. With dementia blanks, shut down, shut off, and seemingly in shock. Anxiety, the time frame can go on and on. With dementia blanks, generally about 15 to 30 minutes. But the big defining feature is that when a person comes out of a dementia blank, they'll say, "Where am I? What's happening? What's going on?" Whereas that is not the case with someone who is suffering from high anxiety. So these are the ways that you can tell the difference between high anxiety and dementia blanks. Now, to give you an example of a dementia resident that I was treating, she had high anxiety about 50% of the time, and when she wasn't anxious, she was great, but when anxious, especially high anxiety, not at all good. And I could tell that she was having a high anxiety from her language. I'd come into the room, and when she was having high levels, she'd say, excuse me, I'm reading my notes here. "Oh, my head's spinning and I'm feeling awful." Now I knew from that she just needed to lie down and relax. Now the other thing she used to say was, "I'm struggling to keep my head above water." Now that again is specific language, so I knew she needed to rest. There was no point doing anything else. But on other occasions I came in, she'd say, "Oh, I'm not feeling well. I just want to lie down in bed because it's warm and cozy." And I knew that was because she was feeling apathetic. So on those occasions, I'd say, "No, we have to do the exercises. We have to get out for the walk." Or she'd say, "I just like to lie down because I'm feeling a bit tired." So that's not specific language related to anxiety. So then you know that chances are she's fine and that you can go ahead with what you need to do. Now, when she had high anxiety, also she was quite pale and withdrawn, whereas when she was just not wanting to do it, her cheeks were flushed and she was feeling fine. So the two ways you tell is through language and through observation of features and body language and colour. If the person isn't speaking, of course, that makes it so much more difficult. So you just need to be more observant and really just try and tune in more to their expressions and how they're appearing. Okay, now with dementia blanks, this is a very interesting area because the thing is, when someone's shut down and shut off, you can just tend to override it. That the person's not well, or they're not, thinking well, or they're stressed. It's difficult. When a person's not communicating, it's very difficult to work out where they're at, especially with dementia blanks, because it's the complete shutdown. It's a complete blank, and so they're not communicating, so it's difficult to know. But I did manage to find out about this. The first time was actually with a woman. She was a lovely lady, former school teacher, as many are, and they tend to be the good communicators, the former school teachers. So this was again the case. And I went to see her one morning and she was sitting in the sun. She did look shut off, but I couldn't tell whether it was anxiety or what. And she just said straight out to me, "Where am I? What's happening?" Now I knew at that point it must have been a dementia blank, because she'd never said that to me before. I'd known her for more than a year. I'd communicated with her well. She'd been lucid the whole time, except for recent memory loss on occasions. And she'd never said that, "Where am I? What's happening?" So that was a very critical point that I knew she'd had a dementia blank. And I took her through it and I said, everything's fine. I explained where she was, where her room was, where her bathroom was, her walker. I just orientated to her environment and what had happened. And, she was concerned. She said, "What's happening to me?" And I just explained it was a dementia blank, it was common, she'd just come through it, and just to settle and relax for a few minutes, and then after that come into the group activity, which she did, and she was fine after that. So that was a good experience. Then after that, actually, she started to help other people in the group. And we had a workshop on dementia blanks that very morning, because I thought, well, it's a topical, topic, having just witnessed it with this woman, and she could remember and recall having just had it. So when I brought up the topic, everyone had different methods to be able to deal with it. Her good articulate friend, said that she'd just talk them through it and, advise them as she could. But the woman that had just been through it said, no, the best thing is to just sit with the person while they're going through it and support. And then when you come out of it, just say, or when they're going through it, just say, it will pass. That's it. It will pass. That was her main method of helping. And then she would say to them, I've experienced the same, so I know what you're going through, but it will pass. Now, how encouraging is that? Fantastic. And there was another man who I also knew very well. He'd been at the unit a good 6 months. And he was it was the same workshop, interestingly enough. I could see that he was not quite right. And I said to him, I asked his opinion on the topic, and he just said thumbs down, not good. And I went up and I said, what's happening? And he said, not good. So I thought, well, maybe he's going through a dementia blank. And I said to him, are things shutting off or shutting down? He said, yes. So, but he was actually able to communicate with me through the blank, which is very unusual. And he said, it's all right, because I actually asked him what's happening, because I wanted to know more. And he said, it's all right. I'm going through this. I can get through it. I'm building back. That's what he said. And he did. 5-10 minutes later, he was all right and settled. So I hadn't actually witnessed a dementia blank. Well, there would have been many people having dementia blanks around me, but I didn't recognize it as such until I started asking the dementia residents what they were experiencing, having the group workshop on it, them sharing their experiences and becoming clearer on the difference between that and anxiety. So that's how I was able to tell the difference between the two, and sharing your knowledge, the knowledge from the dementia residents with you, which I've written about extensively in both books, The Resident's Voice and The Resident's Rise, both on Amazon, and the description below. And as the dementia residents say, what do they say? That there'd be nothing left if I worried about my memory. So to them, dementia blanks and high anxiety, these symptoms can give a lot more problem, stress and angst than memory loss can. So it's an important thing to understand. Thank you so much for your viewing and your support, and please subscribe.